Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
WABC New York and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me, 5 o'clock. Good morning. It is Friday, April 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy today, pop-up showers, high 49, mixed bag for the weekend. So tomorrow, rain in the morning, showers in the afternoon. The high's only going to be 44. I mean, that's just like downright winter weather. But we recover come Sunday, cloudy, high 60. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it's 38 and raining in New City up in Rockland County, 41 and cloudy in my hometown of Trenton, New Jersey. And it is 42 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
So why did that chopper fall out of the sky and into the Hudson? The Dominican community here is mourning for those lost in Santo Domingo. The tariff troubles continue on Wall Street. We know a little bit more about that body found in the woods on Long Island. And some New Yorkers say they've had enough of composting already. All right, let's get into it at 5:02. I guess I had a firsthand view of this helicopter crash that took place on the Jersey City side of the Hudson yesterday afternoon. I got a text, someone from the... Can I tell you? Yeah, I can tell you all this. Inside from the Jersey City Fire Department saying, hey, something's going on the Hudson. You may want to come down there. I was at the gym, popped in the car, raced down to the waterfront right opposite Pier 40, Pier 50 on the other side. I'm trying to think exactly where it was. But on the Jersey City side, if you've ever seen that shushing statue, which faces Manhattan, that's exactly where it took place. Raced down there and talked to a whole bunch of eyewitnesses who had seen the helicopter fall out of the sky. So here's what we know is the helicopter left from the downtown heliport. It was around 3 o'clock. It made its way up through Manhattan, then went by the George Washington Bridge, came down the Jersey side, and that's when something went horrifically wrong, and the helicopter fell out of the sky. No doubt you've seen that video of the chopper just falling into the water upside down. Dozens of first responders rushing to this scene after this Bell 206 aircraft, missing its rotors, plunged into the river. So it was Pier 40 in Manhattan. That was the closest Manhattan side, but it was really on the Jersey City, right on the Jersey City Hoboken side at about 3:20 yesterday.
They told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims, and you can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can.
So there was a runner at the scene who I spoke to for about 10 minutes. Well, I should say, when I got there, Jersey City firefighters, I asked one of them, I said, what's going on? He said, it's not good. All of these people inside the chopper are dead. But I couldn't get real confirmation, and I wanted to make sure I was able to get that before I came on the air. And then I talked to a runner who said that he had seen 2 bodies pulled out of the Hudson, and they were doing CPR on them as they brought them to nearby ambulances. I mean, the response from the fire department, the FDNY actually came through the Holland Tunnel to help out. There were divers in the water. I mean, they did everything they could to get to this family. We now know who they are. So it was a top executive of a global technology company in Spain called Siemens, and he and his family, they had just gotten here from Spain for what was supposed to be a vacation to New York City. I mean, they just landed from Spain yesterday morning. Then they were going to take this helicopter ride, and that's when everything went wrong. So there were 3 kids, their 2 parents, and the helicopter pilot.
The aircraft flew south before turning to fly north along the Manhattan shoreline up the Hudson River. At 3:08 p.m., the helicopter reached the George Washington Bridge and then turned again to fly south along the New Jersey shoreline. Shortly thereafter, the aircraft lost control and hit the water.
That's Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. So, like I said, there was a ton of eyewitnesses because the waterfront, especially on the Jersey City side, is an incredibly popular place to run or walk your dog because you have this fantastic view of Midtown Manhattan.
All of a sudden, you look up at the sky and it's just slowly falling apart. And then you see the tail go and you just see a flip propeller still in the sky, just slams into the ground.
Yeah, everybody having the same sort of description of the people who heard or saw it, that they heard some sort of crackle in the sky that had them look up, and then they saw the helicopter fall.
So I was just walking, I heard like a weird noise, and when I looked up, I just saw it falling from the sky, and then just saw a big splash in the river.
The NYPD scuba team, I can't even tell you how fast they were at the scene. I mean, these guys are really incredible. I mean, they always are. But these first responders are amazing. And, of course, it was an awful day for them because this is not the ending they ever want. You think about Miracle on the Hudson, all those people's lives were saved. But it was the New York's Waterway Ferry. Those guys were there on the scene. And then, of course, you had all the different police units arriving. Same here yesterday, but, of course, a very different ending.
Witnessed 9/11. I worked in the next building. So just as like something just added to that list of unfortunate things that I've seen happen in Manhattan.
Yeah, so there was a press conference on both sides of the river yesterday. Mayor Fulop, the mayor of Jersey City, who's also running for governor, he was on the Jersey City side. Mayor Adams on the New York City side.
We're praying for the families and our gratitude to the rescuers and the courage that was displayed in their dedication.
Yeah, just devastating. I mean, the kids were young. Look, the married couple was young, too.
At this time, all 6 victims have been removed from the water. And sadly, all 6 victims have been pronounced deceased. 3 adults and 3 children were on board a Bell 206 helicopter that had left from the downtown Skyport just about 3 p.m.
NYPD telling us that they were able to get in touch with the family members back in Spain pretty quickly. The Prime Minister of Spain even making a statement talking about how it was an unimaginable tragedy, sending his sympathies to the victims' loved ones. He said at a heartbreaking time. The NTSB already here in town trying to figure what took place. There's tons of video cameras everywhere that have caught images of this. Hopefully that will help in the investigation. At this point, it's not clear what happened, but accidents involving city sightseeing helicopters like the one yesterday are pretty rare. But if you do get into a crash, it's rare that there will be survivors. So 25 people have been killed in New York City sightseeing helicopter accidents, but that's over the last 40 years. So all of the victims aboard an aircraft, there was that one in 2018. It was 5 tourists that plunged into the East River. New York State Senator Brad Hoylman-Siegel is like a lot of lawmakers who represent areas along the waterfront, saying that there are too many of these helicopters in the sky, and they're coming too close to flying over really populated areas.
We averted disaster possibly by just minutes. And that is the concern here, which is if a helicopter gets in trouble over a densely populated area like Manhattan, the disaster could be far worse.
Now, I can tell you from my own experience, these helicopters, they buzz our house all day long, these tourist helicopters. I mean, sometimes they're flying so low that the house shakes. I have to walk outside. It feels like it's landing on my house. So there's been a push to stop this because if that helicopter falls out of the sky in my neighborhood, I mean, a lot of people could die. In 2009, a sightseeing helicopter collided with a small plane. You remember that one midair, killing all 9 people on board. In 2011, another helicopter crashed in the East River, killing 3 tourists. It was a Bell 206, like the one that crashed yesterday. So more from Hoylman-Siegel, who says there needs to be more safety regulation and more regulation about where these helicopters fly.
No reason to allow tourists and tour flight operators to use our valuable, precious airspace. The danger is that the FAA regulates airspace above 500 feet. So the city and state are prohibited from passing laws or regulations that make tourist choppers safer.
Yeah, all right. Well, as more information comes in on this story, of course, in the coming days, coming hours, we will pass it on to you. But, of course, a lot of other news. 512, several local members of Congress were on a New York City-bound plane that was struck on the wing by another plane. This was in D.C. yesterday afternoon, happened on the taxiway at Ronald Reagan Airport about 1 o'clock. 6 members of Congress from both New York and New Jersey were on this American Airlines flight headed to JFK when the wingtip of the flight hit another one that was headed to Charleston. Now, the people on board said they knew something had happened. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Here was Congressman Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey. He was aboard this plane.
We all boarded, and we went on the runway. It was an American flight, I think 4522. So sitting on the runway, they, as you know, sometimes make you wait before you take off. And as we were waiting there, another plane came by, and their wing hit our wing, I guess on the right side of the plane. The plane shook violently, right? The whole plane shook, and then it was pretty clear that we got hit. And then obviously the pilot came on and told us we weren't going anywhere except back to the gate. We then waited about 45 minutes or so before they could move us. The FAA, I guess, had to come out and inspect before we could go back to the gate.
Now, of course, the incident there comes just 3 months after that deadly mid-air collision at the same airport involving the same airline, which killed 67 people. The FAA is investigating this incident from yesterday. 5:13. President Trump thinks the U.S. is in good shape following the 90-day pause on most U.S. tariffs. He was speaking during a cabinet meeting at the White House yesterday, and he says everything's going to work out.
We're doing again what we should have done many years ago. We let it get out of control, and we allowed some countries to get very big and very rich at our expense.
Nazis was speaking out at that cabinet meeting yesterday. The Dow, the markets, they were just tanking again, down over 1,000 points.
The country is making approximately $2 billion a day. And when you think of it, we've never done that before, never come close to it. And the number is probably $3.5 billion a day.
The president says many countries have been wanting to make trade deals.
The biggest problem they have is they don't have enough time in the day. Everybody wants to come and make a deal. And we're working with a lot of different countries. And it's all going to work out very well. I think it's going to work out really very well.
Now, but in the process, of course, we had one day where the markets were up and now had 4 days where the markets were sharply down. More from correspondent Brian Chung on Wall Street.
When it comes to investors and the action that we've seen in the past few days, it could go any which way. I mean, yeah, certainly we are down, but we have seen crazy swings over the last few days. And I think that the overall point is that volatility in this market is probably still going to be here despite the announcement yesterday, because there is that uncertainty over what happens with China next.
And nearly 3/4 of Americans say they're financially stressed right now.
The majority of those blame the ongoing trade wars brought on by the Trump administration's tariffs. The CNBC SurveyMonkey poll found that the stress was felt even by 30% of those earning more than $100,000 a year. Inflation was by far the biggest concern, and while rates have cooled, prices are still high. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
WABC News Time, 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Friday. Good morning, Justin Eller.
Happy Friday. Good morning to you, Noam Ledin. We'll start here with the NBA. The Knicks fell 115-106 to the Pistons in Detroit in a possible preview of a first-round matchup in the NBA playoffs. New York was without starters. OG Anunoby out with a thumb and Josh Hart out with a knee, and failed to clinch the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. With the loss, All-Star guard Jalen Brunson briefly left the game late in the third quarter after rolling his left ankle, but returned to finish with 15 points, missing 10 of 15 shots. The Knicks led for much of the game, but sixth-place Detroit outscored them by 9 in the fourth quarter. Karl-Anthony Towns scored 25 points and grabbed 10 rebounds. Up next for the Knicks, they'll host Eastern Conference top seed Cleveland tonight at 7:30. Out in Brooklyn, the Nets lost 133-109 to the visiting Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Wilson finished with 20 points to lead the Nets. Up next for Brooklyn, they're in Minnesota for a 9 p.m. tip-off tonight against the Timberwolves. To the NHL in Elmont, Artemi Panarin and Brett Berard each scored twice, and the Rangers trounced the Islanders 9-2. Zibanejad, Cooley, Trocheck, Parsonen, Carrick each added 2 assists. Igor Shesterkin made 44 saves. The Rangers took control early, scoring 4 goals in the first period, capped by Panarin's 36th of the year. The Rangers swept the season series, winning all 4 meetings and outscoring the Islanders 23-5. Both still mathematically alive in the playoff race. The Islanders are 8 points back of a playoff berth with 4 to play. Heading to Philadelphia next come tomorrow afternoon, and the Rangers sit 6 points back with 3 to play, heading to Carolina to face off with the Hurricanes next come tomorrow afternoon as well. To the MLB, no action last night, but we got some stuff to look forward to tonight. Both local squads back at it, opening their weekend sets. The Yankees will welcome in the San Francisco Giants. 7:05 p.m. first pitch for Marcus Stroman starting. And the Mets, they'll be in Sacramento against the Athletics. 10:05 p.m. first pitch for Game 1 of 3 this weekend tonight. Griffin Canning on the hill there for the Mets. And the Masters, day 1 yesterday, Justin Rose managed to steal the attention from Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy in the Masters by matching his personal best at Augusta National with a 7 under 65 for a 3-shot lead in the first major of the year. Rose is off at 8:52 a.m. this morning as your leader. Scheffler did his part in his bid to win a 3rd Masters green jacket in 4 years, playing bogey-free. He shot a 68. He's off at 1:23 p.m. today for his 2nd round, and McIlroy, so desperate to win his major and complete the career Grand Slam, was right there with him until the end. He took a pair of double bogeys late in the afternoon with careless mistakes and had to settle for a 72. McIlroy is off at 9:58 this morning. So, more Masters golf to look forward to today. That's your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Just when you think a subway crime could not be any more shocking, comes this latest one that's incredibly shocking.
Police say a man is wanted for having sex with a corpse in a subway station. They say a man had sex with the body of a homeless man in his 40s who had died of natural causes. They say video evidence shows the act occurred in Lower Manhattan's Whitehall Street station early Wednesday morning on board an R train. Now, police say the suspect rifled through the dead man's pockets before performing a sex act. Police don't believe he knew the man who had died. Jeff McKinney, 77 WABC News.
Let's go down to Washington. Over 300 student visas being revoked by the Trump administration as it cracks down on immigration. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says it's a privilege to be able to go to school in the U.S.
If you come to this country as a student, we expect you to go to class and study and get a degree. If you come here to vandalize a library, take over a campus, and do all kinds of crazy things, we're going to get rid of these people.
Some international students have seen their visas taken away for allegedly supporting terror organizations. Others have had theirs reportedly revoked for things like traffic violations. It comes as colleges watch immigration databases to see if students are still allowed to be in the U.S. Meanwhile, President Trump wants to block funding to sanctuary cities. He has the backing of congressional Republicans who feel mostly Democrat-led policies are making the country less safe.
Trump derangement syndrome is real. It's a real thing. And sanctuary policies are harming my fellow Americans.
Texas Congressman Wesley Hunt there echoing the words of President Trump, saying that sanctuary policies protect criminals and not everyday people like New Yorkers.
The Democrats keep using the phrase constitutional crisis, but the real constitutional crisis is sanctuary city mayors, DAs, and judges who are defying federal law. When violent gangs are taking over American cities like Chicago, that is an invading army.
While we're down in D.C., House Speaker Mike Johnson says the House and Senate will continue working over the coming weeks on President Trump's budget plan.
We have a responsibility to get our country back on a sound fiscal trajectory.
The House narrowly passed a revised blueprint for budget yesterday. Afterward, Johnson said committees for both chambers would be working collaboratively over the 2-week recess to find more savings.
We will now get the committees operating on all cylinders. They'll be working over the 2-week district work period that encompasses Passover and Easter. The committees in the Senate and the House will be working in a collaborative fashion.
And House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries says Democratic lawmakers will work during that 2-week period to oppose this budget blueprint.
House Democrats are going to aggressively push back every day, every week, every month until we bury this reckless Republican budget resolution in the ground.
And Congress yesterday passing the so-called SAVE Act, which seeks to make sure only citizens can vote in elections. Been pushed by Congressman Chip Roy.
There are people who have been indicted for voting illegally. We know that there are voter rolls with massive numbers of people who are illegally present in the United States.
Texas Republican says that some states give driver's licenses to those who cross the border illegally and are awaiting their court date. That's why he wants a higher standard when it comes to registering to vote.
Only American citizens should vote in American elections. There's nothing controversial about that. Ensuring that the people are able to have the voice in the election of the people that represent them in Washington.
But Democrats blasting the plan, saying that it disenfranchises those who cannot find a birth certificate. 523, a Russian-American woman who had been imprisoned in Russia is back home on American soil following a prisoner swap between Russia and the U.S. Correspondent Molly Hunter reports that Carolina Kasina had been held in Russia for more than a year.
According to Carolina's family, the L.A. resident had traveled to Russia last winter to visit her 90-year-old grandmother, sister, and parents for a brief trip. But when she arrived, Russian authorities confiscated her phone. And according to her boyfriend, she was accused of making a donation of about $50 to a Ukrainian charity after Russia invaded Ukraine.
In exchange for Carolina, the U.S. freed Arthur Petrov, a German-Russian citizen who had been arrested in Cyprus in 2023 for smuggling electronics and weaponry to the Russian military.
The 34-year-old ballerina was convicted of treason, sentenced to 12 years in a Russian penal colony. She was actually tried in the same court as now freed Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich was. And in exchange for Carolina's release, the FSB has said the U.S. has freed a dual German-Russian citizen, Artur Petrov.
And that woman, who's a ballerina, by the way, is back home today. 525, U.S. Defense Secretary says there is a framework agreement now with Panama. Pete Hegseth says it would allow U.S. warships to travel first and free through the Panama Canal.
We need to have the ability in a contingency to move to the front of the line immediately with as many ships as we need in order to transit as quickly as possible.
Now, the White House has been worried about the growing interest from China over the strategic waterway.
The Obama administration took their eye off the ball and let China just sweep in all over South and Central America.
Yeah, remember at one point President Trump threatened to reclaim the canal. 525, Ryan Ruth being charged for the attempted assassination of President Trump yesterday.
After 206 days of stonewalling by the federal government that stemmed from days of the Biden administration, I'm able to now announce that my office is charging Mr. Routh for the attempted first-degree murder of President Trump, as well as a charge for terrorism.
That's the Florida Attorney General making the announcement yesterday. Police and Secret Service say Routh was caught pointing a rifle through a fence at Trump's West Palm Beach golf course. You'll remember this was back in September when Trump was a candidate for office. Just this week, the DOJ revealing text messages that say that Routh was trying to purchase a rocket launcher from someone he thought was a Ukrainian arms dealer in order to keep Trump from getting elected.
My office, as well as our law enforcement partners, were met with major roadblocks in prosecuting this case during Biden's term. Biden and his attorney general sought to frustrate our efforts and block our investigation into the man who crossed into this state and attempted to commit political violence against a Florida resident.
WABC News Time 526. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. claiming new research effort will discover the cause of autism, and he says it could be done by September. Of course, he's now the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
We are going to know by September. We've launched a massive testing and research effort that's going to involve hundreds of scientists from around the world. By September, we will know what has caused the autism epidemic.
Now, Kennedy has reportedly hired a longtime figure in the anti-vaccine movement to lead the research effort. Multiple studies have found no link between autism and vaccines.
New York opinions, New York attitude. You've got a voice. This is Talk Radio 77 WABC. It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Sponsored by Secure Cash, LLC. Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam.
On 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, April 11th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Cloudy today, pop-up showers, The high just 49. And then the weekend is kind of a mixed bag. So Saturday, not so great. Rain in the morning, showers in the afternoon, the high only 44. And then we recover on Sunday. Cloudy, the high will be 60. If you are walking out the door with us right now, so happy you are. 38 and raining in New City up in Rockland County. 41 and cloudy in my hometown of Trenton, New Jersey. And it's 42 and cloudy right outside our Midtown studios. WABC News Time 539, NTSB in town to investigate that awful helicopter crash on the Hudson yesterday. 6 dead, 3 kids, their parents, and the helicopter pilot. We know they are from Spain. It was their first day visiting the city. I'm guessing that they were doing what probably a fair amount of tourists sometimes do. Wanted to take a helicopter overview of the city that they were about to visit. There were a ton of eyewitnesses on the water who saw this helicopter crash. It was right on the Jersey City side. If you know that Shushing statue, that huge statue on the Jersey City side, it was right in front of that.
They told us they did everything they can to try to save these victims, and you can see the trauma in their face. They did everything they can.
Yeah, those were the first responders who raced to the scene, and of course, they always want these things to end happily, and when they don't, they take it personally. But there was not much they could do. This helicopter came in upside down into the water. Maybe you saw the video. The propeller coming down like a second or two later into the water. What happened? Nobody really knows.
The aircraft flew south before turning to fly north along the Manhattan shoreline up the Hudson River. At 3:08 p.m., the helicopter reached the George Washington Bridge and then turned again to fly south along the New Jersey shoreline. Shortly thereafter, the aircraft lost control and hit the water.
That's Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. There were a ton of eyewitnesses. I was talking to some of them yesterday, giving me a firsthand view of what they saw, including just an awful scene where they pulled what looked to be kids' bodies out of the water, giving them CPR as they raced them to awaiting ambulances that took them to the hospital.
All of a sudden, you look up to the sky, and it's just slowly falling apart. And then you see the tail go, and you just see a flip, propeller still in the sky, just slams into the ground.
So I was just walking, I heard like a weird noise, and when I looked up, I just saw it falling from the sky, and then just saw a big splash in the river.
Yeah, so when I got there, the NY scuba team was there. There were first responders everywhere doing what they could.
Witnessed 9/11. I worked in the next building. So just as like something just added to that list of like, unfortunate things that I've seen happen in Manhattan.
And I've been to enough of these scenes already that I was there in a short time after I got there, maybe 45 minutes, an hour, the emergency vehicles started to pull away, which told me that this was over, and then I was becoming an investigation into what exactly took place. Here's Mayor Adams.
We're praying for the families and our gratitude to the rescuers and the courage that was displayed in their dedication. At this time, all 6 victims have been removed from the water. And sadly, all 6 victims have been pronounced deceased.
So what we know about the family, it was the family had come here from Spain. The father was the CEO of a company in Spain. They were here on a vacation, first day of vacation. The kids young. I mean, you see pictures of them today.
3 adults and 3 children were on board a Bell 206 helicopter that had left from the downtown Skyport just about 3 p.m.
Yeah, so what happened? May not know for a while. This is a Bell 206 helicopter that was used. A lot of the tour companies use these helicopters to go up and down the Hudson River, and there's been a lot of talk over the years about there being too many of these helicopters and them flying too close to shore, right? On either side, the New York City side or the Jersey City, Hoboken side, there's these huge apartment buildings with thousands of people all along the water. If this helicopter, of course, had crashed a little further in, this could have been even a bigger tragedy. There were a lot of people talking about that yesterday, including State Senator Holman Siegel.
There's no reason to allow tourists and tour flight operators to use our valuable, precious airspace. The danger is that the FAA regulates airspace above 500 feet. So the city and state are prohibited from passing laws or regulations that make tourist choppers safer.
Yeah, so there's been talk over the years to stop these helicopters from flying in the sky. That has not happened. They've buzzed houses, apartment buildings all day long. Maybe this will change things, but it hasn't changed it in the past when there has been accidents along the water. 5:43, let's go out to Long Island. Remember we told you earlier this week there was a body recovered from the Ender Hill Preserve in Jericho. This was on Wednesday, and everybody was wondering what was going on. There were police dogs in the woods, and now we're being told that the skeletal remains that were pulled out of the woods there was connected to an MS-13 case.
I saw a lot of cars over there, but I didn't know it was that. So I'm in shock.
We need more security over here, more cameras, so that way for the security reasons.
Police say the human remains appear to have been present for several years in the woods. This is nearby the high school. Law enforcement said they have a preliminary identification of the victim, which they say will have to be confirmed by further testing. But what started this search in the woods on Wednesday was a MS-13 gang member they had in custody. Apparently had told them that if they looked in the woods in this one area in Jericho, they would come up with the body. And sure enough, it didn't take them long. They found the skeletal remains of this person that they thought was there.
This is the first time hearing of it.
And
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I don't really know too much about it.
Yeah, so Nassau County Medical Examiner now going to try to confirm the identity of that body. 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noam Liddon. Start here with the NBA. The Knicks fell 115-106 to the Pistons in Detroit in a possible preview of a first-round matchup in the NBA playoffs. New York was without starters OG Anunoby out with a thumb and Josh Hart out with a sore knee, and they failed to clinch the number 3 seed in the Eastern Conference with the loss. All-star guard Jalen Brunson briefly left the game in the third after rolling his left ankle, but returned to finish with 15 points. He missed 10 of 15 shots, though. The Knicks led for much of the game, but sixth place Detroit outscored them by 9 in the fourth quarter. Karl-Anthony Towns scored 25 points and grabbed 10 rebounds. Up next for the Knicks, they'll host Eastern Conference top seed Cleveland tonight at 7:30. Out in Brooklyn, the Nets lost 133-109 to the visiting Atlanta Hawks. Jalen Wilson finished with 20 points to lead the Nets. Up next for Brooklyn, they're in Minnesota for a 9 p.m. tip-off tonight against the Timberwolves. In Elmont on the ice, Artemi Panarin and Brett Berard each scored twice, and the Rangers trounced the Islanders 9-2. Zibanejad, Cooley, Trocheck, Parsonen, and Lafreniere each had a goal and an assist. Adam Fox had 3 assists, and JT Miller and Sam Carrick each added 2 assists. Igor Shesterkin made 44 saves. The Rangers took control early, scoring 4 goals in the first period, capped by Panarin's 36th of the season. The Rangers swept the season series, winning all 4 meetings and outscoring the Islanders 23-5. Both still mathematically alive in the playoff race. The Islanders are 8 points back of a playoff berth with 4 to play. They're heading to Philadelphia next, come tomorrow afternoon. And the Rangers sit 6 points back with 3 to play. They're heading to Carolina to face off with the Hurricanes next. That's tomorrow afternoon as well. To the MLB, nothing going on last night, but both local squads getting ready for their weekend sets tonight. The Yankees will welcome in the San Francisco Giants. 7:05 p.m. first pitch for Game 1 of 3 this weekend. Marcus Stroman on the hill there. And 10:05 p.m. the Mets will be in Sacramento against the Athletics, opening up a 3-game set there. Griffin Canning will take the hill for a 10:05 p.m. first pitch. And the Masters tournament, Day 1, Thursday, Justin Rose managed to steal the attention from Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy by matching his personal best at Augusta National with a 7-under 65 for a 3-shot lead in the first major of the year. Rose is off today at 8:52 a.m. as your leader. Scheffler did his part in his bid to win a third Masters green jacket in 4 years, playing a bogey-free round of 68. He's off at 1:23 p.m. today. McIlroy is desperate to win this major and complete the career Grand Slam. That's having a title in every golf major. He was right there with him until the end. He took a pair of double bogeys late in the afternoon with careless mistakes, had to settle for a 72. He's off at 9:58 a.m. this morning. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:49. Let's go up to the Bronx. So we now know 221 people dead in that Dominican Republic roof collapse at a nightclub on Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. 189 have been rescued. They don't believe they're going to find anybody else alive in the rubble, but they continue to look. And there are a lot of connections to New York because New York City has a large Dominican community. A Bronx father was caught in the rubble. He was killed. A retired member of the NYPD was also amid the rubble there. And people were talking out about this up in the Bronx yesterday.
I didn't believe it because I seen him, like I said, I seen him like a week ago, but it felt like yesterday.
So the NYPD detective that we know was killed, his name is Emmanuel Gomez, and lots of people in the neighborhood said they knew Gomez well.
Once he's your friend, that's it. He was always there, available for you, always answer your calls, everything.
Just seeing the TikToks and the social media, seeing his picture like, oh, something happened in DR, you never think that somebody that you know is going to be there. He was a happy person. He was lovely. He always was willing to help you out. He was always there for you. Always. As soon as you are his friend, that's it. He was always there. You always can count on with money.
Its neighbors remembering the retired NYPD detective Emmanuel Gomez, the father who was lost, who leaves two kids behind here, 31-year-old Manuel Diaz, and New York-based fashion designer Martin Polanco. He also died in the collapse, along with former Yankee and Mets pitcher Octavio Dotel. We had known about that earlier in the week. 5:50. New York City officials protesting Mayor Adams' executive order that allows ICE and other federal agencies to set up offices at Rikers Island. You had city council members yesterday gathering at City Hall, arguing that the order violates a law forbidding the city from taking part in deportation efforts.
If our communities see New York City colluding with this racist, bigoted, right-wing agenda, they will not trust our government.
The order allows criminal investigations to be carried out at those housed at the Rikers jail complex, and that's what these city council members are all up in arms about.
They will not trust our agencies. They will assume the worst, and they should, if this is what we are doing.
But First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro says it'll help with investigations into violent criminals, gangs, and drug trafficking. It'll make the city safer by setting up that in Rikers Island. 5:54, Bronx residents, others across the city, saying they have mixed feelings about the city's new composting mandate. We told you they just started handing out tickets for people who forget to compost. If you don't take the chicken wings and put them in a separate bag from the plastic and the regular trash, I mean, it's a whole effort to get the trash out now. So the city has issued nearly 2,000 tickets to violators already during the first week of enforcement. And there are people who are on board. They say, okay, this is fine.
I'm okay with that because I don't want any more rats and stuff like that.
Okay, so composting fines can range anywhere from $25 for the first offense and $300 per offense afterwards. So it goes really high. And so you have other people who say, wait a minute, I don't like this at all. I think let's go back to the old days where we put everything in the same trash bag, but there is no going back. The New York City Council giving the thumbs up to double the number of public bathrooms across the city. I mean, it's an age-old problem of where to go when you have to go. You always have to think, okay, how do I map this out? So the city only has 1,100 public restrooms now for more than 8 million residents. And then, of course, you have the tourists that are in here in a city that's open 24 hours a day. So now it'll take a while, but they'll more than double the amount of restrooms in the next decade or so.
I definitely think we do need more bathrooms. Sometimes you're in a rush and you're like, where should I go use the bathroom? There's nowhere to go. And sometimes there's places, but there's so many people.
Yes, so that's why you get a lot of tickets being handed out for public urination, because sometimes when you can't hold it in, you can't hold it in. So this bill calls for boosting the number of restrooms to more than 2,100, as well as they would create a comprehensive online map so you could find them easily, which makes a lot of sense to me. Now, by the way, you can download apps now that'll tell you where the best bathrooms are to go that are in private restaurants and stores and stuff like that, where they won't bother you. There's actually an app for that because, 8 million people is a lot of people.
It would be a really nice thing. There's so many people, tourists going by, delivery people, pregnant women, just who need bathrooms, and it's hard to find. So it would be nice.
All right, so we'll go to 2,100 restrooms. It'll take about a decade. The plan calls for the additional bathrooms to be created by 2035, and then you'll get that map online that'll show you exactly where those bathrooms are. Meanwhile, NYPD launching now a quality of life division.
They're going to be called the Q Team. Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch said members of the unit will be specially trained and will tackle non-emergency calls, things like noise complaints, people who illegally park, and people doing drugs outside.
It's about addressing conditions that have plagued our communities for years and finally having a consistent, coordinated plan at the local level to do something about it.
Officials say the Q Team is for now a pilot program, and they're just testing it out to see how it goes. Lisa G., 77 WABC News.
Let's go out to Long Island. We're a school district now, rolling out a name change following a new state mandate.
Amityville is no longer home to the Warriors, but the Hawks, as the school complies with new orders from Albany. New York State is requiring schools to retire any Native American logos and team names. A few zip codes over in Massapequa, whose team name is the Chiefs, they're urging President Trump to overturn the statewide ban after a judge dismissed their lawsuit. Other schools, including Connecticut, Wonton, Wyandanch, were also part of the lawsuit. All the schools say the team name and logo changes will cost between $200,000 and $1 million. In Amityville, where they are already in the process of making the name change, students will vote on a new visual logo over the next few weeks. I'm Liz Radabali for 77 WABC News.
Let's go up to Westchester, a nonprofit clothing bank in Port Chester. They say they've seen nearly a 40% jump this year in requests for needy children. It's called the Sharing Shelf, and a great organization where they lay out clothes like a store, and then people like teenagers can come in and go shopping. I mean, they get the clothes for free, but they say demand has gone up 40% this year. So you sort of wonder what exactly is going on, and well, obviously it's not good.
There's uncertainty in the world. There's clearly impacts on these families economically. We receive some support locally here at the county for some of our program work, but it's minuscule compared to the vast majority of funding, which is coming from family foundations and individuals who are invested, again, in the mission of what we're trying to accomplish, which is to alleviate clothing insecurity.
Yeah, so good job by the Sharing Shelf, who's helping kids out who might not have another place to go. Really, apparently, very nice clothes laid out for them for free. And we'll end with this story. A student in Fort Bend, Texas, is saying none of the above. So he is accepted to all 8 Ivy League schools. I barely got out of high school. This guy's getting into 8 Ivy League schools. His name is Ten Pham. He's a senior at George Bush High and has been given the welcome mat at Brown, Columbia, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, Princeton, and University of Pennsylvania. Oh, and Yale. And by the way, he was also received a total of $3 million in scholarships amid those offers, which meant a free ride at all those Ivy League schools. But he said, nope. He's not going there, but he's still going to an amazing place. He's getting a full ride at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So congratulations to Tem.